Soon the earth will rumble under the heels of the angry mobs. You came here for the truth. Just look around you today. People are angry. They are upset. Civil unrest is brewing. It's important to understand this information because even if it may not be affecting you directly, it may only be a matter of time. And there are steps that we can take to make sure that we're doing better off than the majority. The first thing I want to look at is the inflation nation. Prices are rising. When prices get too high, people get upset. The second thing is down from here. Have we peaked out on inflation and coming down? I'll bring you some information regarding that. And the third is a couple factors that have simply gone too far. I have got all of that and more. Let's begin. All right, first things first, soaring fuel prices stoke rush to stockpile firewood across the US. I have heard from multiple subscribers telling me that they have been stocking up on firewood. So Bloomberg is one step behind you out there. Soaring prices for natural gas, propane, and oil are pushing many to try heating their homes at least partially with old-fashioned wood. Nothing wrong with that. And the smell is fantastic. You can see right here, heating costs soar. Gas, propane, and heating oil prices are all up this year. Just look at that. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. At the same time, when the prices are sky high, you're seeing the stockpiles declining. Inventories are declining. Many people would say that, well, inflation is transitory, it's temporary, it's only going to be a matter of time before things get better. But what we have to realize here is that inventories have fallen so low, it isn't necessarily just going to be a flip of a switch and we'll be okay. Things actually can get progressively worse. The thing, as I talked about in the previous video to this one, I'll link to it at the end, but essentially the thing that can turn this around isn't very good for a lot of people because that means we got to have a recession or something even worse in order to reduce demand dramatically. And I'm talking about fast, turning on a dime. You can see right here in this article, it just covers some of the information. Amid the inflation surge that's rippled through the US economy and touched thousands upon thousands of products, one of the more obscure items on the list is firewood. It's such a niche industry, there is no tracking, but they went out there to talk to some vendors and you could see the prices rising up 33%, up 11%, 19%, 27%, and so on. Depends on where you go. But I just see that the prices have risen considerably. And of course, this is not unlike anything else. We're seeing that basically far and wide. You can't get a stove until at least April. So the shortages are there on that end. So if anybody didn't have this already in place, they're going to be in big trouble. And there are not enough people who are cutting and supplying wood right now. And this brings me to the message. One key message that some people, quite frankly, don't want to hear, and that is we need to be making our preparations in advance. It's not that difficult. It does require some investment. It does require some time, some effort, some sweat equity, but we have to be able to do this or we are going to be trying to eat our 7 shares of Amazon. Might not keep you full. Okay, take a look. US inflation, which categories have been hit the hardest? You could see right here, if I could pull that up a little better, consumer price index, CPI monthly change, just showing you month to month. That's the CPI. You can look at it how you want, but comparing it over the last 30 years, it is as high as we have seen it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Selected CPI subcategories, you can look at this. Now, for example, beef. If the person doesn't eat beef, they won't experience inflation in that. If they don't go to a hotel or motel, they won't experience inflation. But depending on your particular basket, you are going to feel it in some ways that other people don't, right? And it depends on what you use and how often you use them and all kinds of things. But people are just paying more in general for basically everything, so much so that the Google Trends topic of inflation has hit the highest point in the last 10 years. Of course, people are concerned. They've never seen anything like this before, for a lot of people anyway. You could see the breakdown here, energy, commodities, 1 year change. Obviously, you look at the prices of things. If I show you what's going on with oil, We've come off the top at around $85 a barrel for WTI, coming down at the time of this recording around 75. So it is quite a bit off the top, but it has been oversold when you look at the technical indicators. Then you go down used cars, which we'll talk about in just a second, and so on. You go through all of this. What happens? What's the message here? GPS, just tell me what I need to hear. When prices rise, people take to the streets. Why? Because they feel destitute. They feel like the situation, that's it for them. And so they go to the streets and they do things that sometimes don't work out so well. It's not so nice. This comes at a time when we have holidays for a lot of people coming up. It's supposed to be family and togetherness. And unfortunately, I've shown you the statistics before, just basically the Thanksgiving meal going up. I think it was 17% year over year. And also so many other things are going on, but unfortunately, anyway, this is the used vehicle value index. The Manheim index is largely regarded as the number one for the wholesale market. When you look at this, I mean, just unbelievable. Now there's reasons for this. You could see right here, wholesale prices rise halfway through November considerably. Just looking at it, when you don't do the seasonal adjustment, it doesn't look so extreme. But the fact is, if I pull this chart up, if I can get it in any closer here, let me see if I can pull that up for you. There we go. Just rising to new heights. Okay, that's all I want to cover. It is extreme. And what happens if people can't get to work because the prices are too high? Okay, what do? What is the situation that people do right now? Well, I'm going to break this down a little bit in the Money GPS Insights. Let me keep it simple. Whenever prices rise too much, people revolt. Those in control of this system are simply refusing to acknowledge what's happening right now, and they are doing a disservice to the public. My message to you is to protect your investments today. I've talked about this numerous times, as well as your personal environment, yourself, your family, your household, and so on. Take those steps, take those measures, and I believe that you will be better off than the majority. I thought this was interesting. It's out of Freight Waves, talking about how many ships are entering into LA Long Beach. They're talking about the backlog. However, ship arrivals are falling. The number of container ships arriving in LA Long Beach is actually falling as wait times from anchorage to berth are simultaneously surging. The rising number of ships at anchor or loitering is creating the perception of a rising tide of U.S. imports, when in fact, higher wait times for ships are being caused by landside logistics issues and gridlocks at the ports, not higher inbound container ship arrivals. I thought that was interesting. Now, you could look at the data one side or the other. I think it's a little bit of a gray area here, but I just found it to be interesting that they're specifically pointing this out. What does that tell you? Not enough stuff being needed right now? Because you can see that there is quite a bit of demand in some categories, but maybe the prices have gone too high for people to afford as much as they would have purchased. The other factor here, if a lot of this stuff is coming from the Shanghai port, if it's coming from, let's say, China in general, well, China may be slowing down on their exports. Maybe it's from a country, maybe it's China, where there's a lot of lockdowns. So getting stuff onto the ships and pushing that out is more difficult now than it was before. And so that means less imports on the US side. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this, but I wanted to bring it to you in case we see this trend continue. So let's keep an eye on it. You got to tune into the Money GPS, of course, to make sure to do that in the easiest way. I should just plug it right now, just to hit the thumbs up button. If you go down there and hit that thumbs up button, number one, this is going to be more likely to be in your recommended feed. But at the same time, you're going to help others out there know who the Money GPS is. The algorithm will pick that up. I thought this was interesting here. We're talking about the semiconductors. They're in everything today, okay? They're in your dishwasher, they're, talking to your light bulbs and whatever, all these different crazy things now. But take a look. South Korea's SK Hynix, one of the world's top suppliers of memory chips, has reportedly halted the installation of cutting-edge production equipment at a key Chinese plant over American trade policies. Now, this is one thing after another, after another. These semiconductors are becoming more prevalent than ever, and yet we have such a problem getting them. In fact, they're saying this is going to extend all the way into 2023, not just 2022. So this is why I said when GM, and I believe it was Ford in the previous video, said that they want to create their own semiconductors, I think this is a great idea long term. Doesn't happen overnight, but I think that's the way to go. Build them not in a different country, build them in your own country. And look, we're already paying excessive prices because of the shipping, because of the logistics issues. Maybe it'll end up being the same price. I don't know. I don't know all the insides to it, but we should be investigating that. Build stuff in your own country. What a novel idea. Now, if you think what's happening in the stock market is out of whack, it's crazy, hit that thumbs up button to let me know that you agree. Do you think it's wacky? I mean, consensus LTG long-term growth is at a record high, well above the tech bubble peak back in 2000. Just look at this line. This is the long-term growth forecast, all the way up in the sky. I mean, it's insane. This is 2000. You could see. And the funny part was, during these years following the financial crisis, we looked back at this on so many different indicators and said, wow, this is hilarious, right? I mean, how did things ever get so out of whack? I mean, how could it ever be? And now today we're living through it. Oh yeah, it's totally normal. It's totally fine because tech is here to stay. It's not so black and white. And then we have this. Rise of the robots, global operational stock of industrial robots. Back in 2010, it's at about 1 million, 2020, 3 million. Robots are increasingly prevalent, as with all this other technology. And while that gives jobs to people creating these robots, businesses that are building robots, it ultimately is designed to increase productivity and therefore less human capital, less human resources being required. That is the goal. People say, no. The robots are going to be there to do all your work, and you're going to kick back and relax and have your feet up collecting your universal basic income, and life's going to be oh so pretty. But I got to understand this. Kathy Wood, if you're listening, of course you're not. This is important because, you look 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, every single decade and century has new technology forming. There's always new stuff, always, every single day. But we have to understand that it happens so fast. When it happens so fast, you can't, sort of catch up as an individual. And that's the problem today. Cashiers are being wiped out. Drivers are soon to be wiped out. I mean, think about how many jobs are surrounding driving. They're trying to eliminate all of these. And of course, long-term, that is not good. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me know what you think in the comments. Robots, good, bad, gray area? Let me know. All right. I just wanted to thank you all for being here today. If you like this information, if you support the channel, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't seen this video yet, you definitely want to check it out. So just click it and I'll see you there.